most people have no idea that the problem exists. You know, the average person, if we grab 10 people walking down the sidewalk right there, and you said, you know, the problem of, do you know anything about feral cats and stray cats? Do you know what LA Animal Services does? You know, the average person doesn't know.
Studies have tried to look at the relative effects of, say, household cats that are outdoors versus feral cat colonies. We find impacts of both types of domestic cats, but generally we think that the impacts of the feral cat colonies are much larger than the effects of household cats.
There's a difference between a stray cat and a feral cat.
The definition of feral cats has to be understood. Okay, a feral cat is typically one that hasn't had human contact, and if it hasn't had human contact, it will be afraid of humans, it will hide, and it won't meow. If a cat will meow to you when it sees you, because cats don't usually meow to each other, they meow to people. So if a cat meows when it sees you, that probably means the cat is stray and that it's not feral.
Domestic cats, be that they feral or house cats, can have serious negative effects on bird populations. So, for example, in areas where we have more cats, we have less diversity of birds. This can affect bird populations, but these cats can also affect populations of small mammals, reptiles, amphibians, in addition to the birds. The effects that cats have on wild bird populations, it can be both because they increase mortality, they kill the birds, but they can also have what we call sublethal effects on bird populations, meaning that the cats can change the behavior of the birds without killing them, but in ways that has a negative impact on the birds. So, for example, reduces their parental behavior and reduces their reproductive success.
You may not see the cat, but you, as much as the dog, you know, a kid might not get bit by a dog, but you won't see that cat maybe. But the cats that were out roaming tonight, they left fleas. They left ticks along their little path. So with these same kids walking to school, they get bit.
So we know from ecology that when you take or when you lose either diversity in a particular guild or you lose animals from that guild, that has impacts on organisms below them in the system. So for birds, removing or losing birds and bird diversity, that could potentially affect insect populations, affect plant populations, these sorts of things.
Cats are predators. Of course they're killing the birds. But half the stuff with the pesticides that we spray out here that the birds have to eat the seeds, it's all intertwined.
If it wasn't for birds, the insects would take over the world in about a week. Birds kill and eat so many insects. And yet cats do eat a lot of birds, but cats eat a lot of rats and a lot of mice. And if it wasn't for the cats, especially the feral cats, we'd be overrun by mice and rats and other small creatures. They've already said in our association here, we've got 100 townhomes where I live, is that the end of the building where there's some of the stray cats are, we have no mice because they have traps for the mice. There's never any mice in it. On the other end where there's no cats and all the cat haters live, they have mice everywhere. The program in LA County basically is trap, spade or neuter, and release. It's a trap and release program. We've learned that you don't have to do that. If you catch them and fix them, you can usually adopt them out. So we don't have a large colony like some places do where there's 20 or 30 or 40 cats. We'll have 2 or 3, one in another place, one in another place, because we took care of the problem. And there's people like us all over the city of LA.
I'm shocked to see how many people are involved in feeding of cats and trying to catch them, you know, in cages and stuff, which is the only way to do it too, please.
We probably took 35 to 45 cats off the street, kittens and adults. Some of them got older, so they died, or we had to trap them and bring them in for treatment. But a lot of other neighbors did the same thing. Some of them would adopt them and take care of them until they were either passed or healed. Our population in our house has gone down, and the feral cat population in our area is very well controlled. There were other people before us that did the same thing. Cats we have there now are all fixed. They just like to live outside. They're happy out there, so we leave them out there.
You're losing one way or the other. Your tax dollars are being misguided and misspent. Your neighborhood is being attacked by the problem, and or somebody is doing something with the money that's not right.
So in terms of trying to resolve these issues, it's a complicated set of problems or challenges. There have been a number of solutions proposed. Ultimately, I hope we can get to the point where we don't have such large numbers of cats affecting wild populations. And so people who own cats, by keeping them indoors more or supervising them when they are outdoors, that can help reduce the impact on bird populations. And doing something about these larger populations of feral cats, for example, such as moving them to sanctuaries where they're enclosed and they can't interact with wildlife, would be a great, potentially a good solution as well.
Call your local representatives and tell them about the problems in your neighborhood. Don't just be quiet, make some noise.